Hello there, this is Bic Benedict. We're playing Dead Space on Impossible difficulty on the PC. Now, the first thing I want to tell you guys is that I have not completed the campaign yet, but I am playing on Impossible. How is that? Look on the bottom at the red text, go to that location in your PC, this is for Windows 7, and show hidden files, right-click, show hidden files, and then change where it says game.played equals 0, and put a 1 where the 0 is. These are my visual settings right here, my graphic settings. But that file, it's called settings.txt. That file is going to be read-only. So right-click on the file, uncheck read-only so that you can save it, and then save that it's not read-only, and then go and do the change that I mentioned. Then save it. Exit. Start the game. You'll be able to play on Impossible difficulty. That's the joy of playing on PC. I didn't discover that. I looked it up. It was awesome because I've already played this game. I've already done the campaign that I've set out to do, but this time it's going to be harder. So this is running at 1920 by 1200. You see, even an older game like this can do it, whereas Metal Gear Rising, the game that I just covered, they didn't cover it, or they didn't have it. You know, they didn't have it. So this is on the hardest difficulty. It's called Impossible difficulty, and I'm only going to be using the plasma cutter. I've done a guide for this game with the plasma cutter, and I got the trophy a long time ago, but the thing was, it was in very poor quality. It was in like 480. It was not in HD. It had no commentary, and I was using I was using a suit that I thought that I had earned by completing the game, but it was one that I had purchased. I just didn't know, and it was called the tank suit, and it granted me 60% damage resistance. So my campaign was actually kind of rendered a lot easier than it was. So I will be doing the upgrades, but I won't be using any strong suits. I mean, I'll be upgrading my HP and the damage parameters for the gun and all the capacity, everything, but I'm only using the default suit. I think it's called the engineer suit, and 60% damage resistance. That's pretty ridiculous. Another thing that's ridiculous is there's no sensitivity settings for the camera. There's a mouse sensitivity, but I'm using a paddle, and I can't tell you how slow the camera moves. It's every game has some issue that, you know. Anyway, you can melee the circuitry here instead of firing your plasma cutter. And actually, using the plasma cutter is alone. It's less enjoyable, but it's funner in my opinion, and it's actually easier because you don't have to manage so many resources. You don't have to spend so many nodes on extra weapons. So I'm not sure what I was doing right there. You can't restart from checkpoint, which is kind of ridiculous. But I love this game much more than the second game. The second game had a lot more fine tuning to it, but the second they made Isaac start talking was the second I realized that this game would always be superior. There's some cache down there. There's actually, once we get the Kinesis module, we'll be able to pull that chest over to us. So it's kind of ridiculous that you can't alter the sensitivity. The camera is already close enough, and when you're swinging the camera around Isaac, it just takes a long time. So we're gonna go in here and get to save. We're gonna be coming and going from this room. This is chapter 1. It's called New Arrivals, and this has always been one of my favorite games of all time. I love the little infighting between the captain and Kendra. So we're going to save our progress after this. And this is a tough game. It has a lot of difficult fights in it. So we're looking for a some kind of a card key or something. Let's see. Right bumper is that stomp. The swing is right trigger. And this guy rises from the grave, so you just want to put him down. Just remember that we're not cutting. We're not going for headshots in this game. This is it's one of those games that it works the opposite way. You're going for limb kills or limb decimations, or I should say, severing legs and limbs and arms to take off their HP. So you have the ability to turn your plasma cutter. That's one of the to rotate it 90 degrees. So you always want to be taking into account how best you can take off a limb. So in this particular area here, we're going to be coming back to it, and there's going to be enemies coming out of the vents. But there's some money over here, some credits. And they really don't even make games like this anymore. Not even when they made Dead Space 3 were they making games like this, because that game is such shit compared to this. And I will say that Dead Space 2 was really good, but I don't like Isaac talking, and I like the brooding, silent experience that you get with this. So stasis is done by left trigger plus X. And in this game, stasis doesn't regenerate the way it does in Dead Space 2. So we're going to hit this save point, head over here to the right, and the lights are going to go off. No enemies are going to come though. So another kind of annoying thing is that, and it's for effect, you just can't turn 360 degrees or do a 180 in this game. It's very limited. I haven't played this game for several years. I love the end boss fight in this game. I think it's magnificent compared to what you want to call a boss fight in number 2. And I have beaten the second game on hardcore difficulty without doing any exploits or anything. And it was definitely something that I took a lot of pride in. And okay, so you want to engage the claw, put the stasis there. You're going to have an enemy dropping right up here. And if you want to manage your resources, what you can do is throw the stasis and then melee with this. But the melee in this game is a lot poorer than it is in the second game. He's a lot slower. The hits don't always connect as well as they do in the second game. And also in this game, enemies will either drop an item or they won't. And in the second game, you can go around stomping bodies on the floor for stuff. In this game, the only time you're going to get stuff is when they're dropping it for you from their dead bodies. Like if they don't drop anything and you go to stomp the dead body, it's not going to ever give you anything because that's not how it's programmed. But here's another guy jumping out. And I'm going to go back, refill on my stasis him, and then do some stomping. It's just a very slow stomp that doesn't connect very well, and it's just very, like I said, slow. They sped it up in the second game, and it was really fun actually. But another part of me kind of disliked the stomp, because then you just be going around stomping everything and taking up a lot of time, whereas in this game there's just no need to, because like I said, the enemies are going to drop stuff, which they usually do. That's how you know they're dead. They're either going to drop stuff or they're not going to. So you can just, you don't even have to waste your time stomping on things. So we're going to get this power node. I would always have one power node available for the node room door. The node room doors.
Isaac, you did it. The tram is blocking.
So we're not going to be able to leave until we have this confrontation over here. That right there was an accident. I was trying to reload. Reload is done by aiming and then pressing the A button. So I am pretty damn unfamiliar with how the controls work, so you're going to have to forgive me for this introductory chapter. See, I put it vertically when there's horizontal limbs, and I put it horizontally when there's vertical limbs. You don't have to, but it's just easier to, and you'll have more success hitting the enemies, unless you're a dead-eye shot that never misses. And it is kind of annoying not to have the stasis regenerate, but anyway. So we're going to be sticking to this suit, using this gun the entire game. And in my opinion, I don't like the other guns anyway. So it's not a no upgrade run. I did want to profess that. So these guys here, I used to know the names of everybody. These guys here, the hardest enemy in the game in my opinion, because they're damn fast. My Dead Space 2 guide was, I did the whole thing annotated, because back then I wanted to try that. These guys, I don't know what they're called. I would have to look at my own guide because I had everybody listed. I don't know what those guys are called. But they're very fast, and they only have 2 limbs really that you can sever. Just their arms, because they don't have any legs. They're just half of a necromorph. I suppose that tail part of them could be considered a limb. So he's dead. Drop some ammunition for us, it looks like. And then just make sure that you refill your stasis before you leave this room. Why did I do that, you might ask? Part of me is just having played Dead Space 2 so much, kind of expecting to get drops from stomping bodies. Don't worry, I won't be doing it unnecessarily too many times.
The data board should be somewhere inside.
So pushing down on the R3 button will tell you exactly where to go. I love that. And I'll be speeding up. The loading times are unbelievably long. Some of them take so long that when they start the game again, I forget that I was even playing the game. So this is a checkpoint area right here. You want to dispatch this guy very quickly through the stasis. Look for what's dropping out of him so that you know he's dead. So there it goes. He dropped it. I know he's dead. I need to turn around really quickly because this guy's coming. So these guys, they do a charge when they are closing in on you, and you could really get torn up like that. But the loading times are utterly shameful. So you want to approach this exploding canister, back off, and then use it to either kill or damage this guy depending on how skilled / lucky you are right there. He went down fairly quick. Okay, then there's this last guy. This is the 4th guy. See the charge that he does? So if you're used to playing cover-based shooters, this game will kind of take you for a loop a little bit, because it's a game where the emphasis is on slowing down the enemies. And that's how you survive in this game. Because if you didn't do it, you'd get overrun. These are pretty easy scenarios that we're dealing with at first on this first chapter. I mean, but you'll have many enemies coming at you. So what you want to do now is go up this incline, and we're going to get a guy walking from the right. And you have 2 opportunities here. If we had the kinesis module, we could pick these up and fling them at him, but we don't have that quite yet. So what we're going to do is just shoot these as best we can, and that took care of him. Piece of shit. Okay, so into the elevator we go. I believe most of these are going to have to be sped up, unfortunately, which is good for you because they take a long time. Some of the doors even take a long time. This corpse is going to rise, so you can shoot it right away to aggro it. And just remember to slow it down and take its limbs off. Okay, this is the key card we need. But just turn around really quickly because this guy will spawn. Okay, there's an audio log right there. Or some kind of a manifest. And I know that all of this is done intentionally. It's intentionally close to the character, the camera that is, to give that claustrophobic vibe. And I have looked it up about the sensitivity. Only the mouse sensitivity has any effect. So here's the final guy in this room. And I love this game so much. And the sad thing really is that they just aren't making games like this anymore. I came into this whole video game kind of hobby, and I'm just not seeing anything anymore like what I like. So it's really disheartening. And I did hear that the DMC reboot, I guess, not the reboot, but the remastering, is coming out on a week earlier. So I think it's coming out on March 7th now, from the 14th, or either it's being pushed up from the 21st to the 14th, something like that. So we're going to get that a little bit earlier. I am excited to play that on turbo mode and also DMC4. Hopefully that they're using that to kind of buffer our appetite until they make Devil May Cry 5, which I can't actually see them doing because how are you gonna make a game like that like you used to when all you make is shit? They didn't even make DMC. The people who made Heavenly Sword made that game, Ninja Theory. So here's the bench. I'll leave these in case you want to follow my upgrade path. So what I'm going to do is upgrade the damage for the plasma cutter, and for the rig I'm going to upgrade an empty spot because I don't think that the air is any good to upgrade. So that weld node right there is actually for nothing, but you have to use nodes on the empty weld slots to actually get stuff for along the upgrade path.
Take the board back to tram control and slot it into the
Okay, so here comes another guy.
Get the trams to come back online.
Dropped 1,000, and unfortunately this game is kind of cheap about having one enemy spawn ahead of you and then one in back of you. So just listen for any vents being torn open. Just listen very closely because that's the biggest indicator, the number one indicator. You could always count on that. If you hear that, just turn around, look for where you think the vents are. Keep an eye on those vents. I wasn't expecting this guy to rise up. I should have known better though, but at least I don't have every single one of these memorized. That would be kind of less enjoyable for the viewer to watch. But I would suggest trying your hand at this. And the reason I'm playing on PC these days is because it's just more enjoyable. It's easier for me, and the experience is just better. Now, you might say to yourself about the load times. The load times are long even on the PS3. This guy here I did not expect. Came right around the corner. So it's not a matter of, I have a $300 video card in my computer, so it's not that my rig is not any good. It's because this game wasn't optimized as best as it could have been. That's why it's so long of loading. And I'm just having fun replaying these games that I played on the PC, on the consoles, and then playing them on PC in their superior forms. Now, not every experience is superior. I mean, you take a look at like Devil May Cry 3. That game is really bad. And then Gears of War, the original, it's so unstable that I had to end the guide, and I had got up to the final set of chapters on that guide, and was really enjoying that guide.
The quarantine just lifted.
Whatever was in the flight lounge must have left. That's lucky for us.
So you have to kind of do your research when you're looking into a PC game to make sure
If we live that long,
that
you're
it
out of your league,
is
Hammond.
properly put together. So coming out here now, we're going to turn the corner. He's going to go into the vent, and I'm going to backtrack. A lot of the times in this game, the best thing to do is put your back up against a wall. Make sure there's no vents overhead, of course, so they can drop on you. But just just realize that they're going to come out of the vents. That's where they come from. So if you can get to a place where there are no vents, like by a wall or by the door, you're going to be in good shape. And another huge way of salvaging and your bullets is to pick up their limbs and penetrate their bodies with limbs. Some of the details from like the second and third games, they may be interfering with my knowledge of what this game has and what it lacks. So I'm not going to speak too much until I get a little bit further into the game, so that I know all of the things that were in this game. That were in the other games and not put in this game because they just hadn't been thought of at the time. Alright guys, what I did in that transition was, you may have noticed or possibly see my stasis, the HUD where my stasis is. It's now filled up because I went back and went to the stasis recharge station way back there and filled up on that, and also went around the environment and picked up some other stuff. Now, I will be upgrading the suits like I mentioned. For instance, at the end of this chapter, I will be acquiring the level 2 suit. It's mainly for having more slots to carry more things. Another great thing, let me first talk about this enemy here. I looked this up. This is called a leaper, and the other ones are called slashers. So there's just one of these guys. There's also the Peng. Is it a statue? I think it is, on the tracks on the right side, but we don't have the kinesis module to pull things to us quite yet. So I will like I said, I will be upgrading the suits. And the cool thing about the plasma cutter only is that you can use the other ammunition you get to sell and get money that way. So you'll have to pardon things like me using the waypoint finder right here. It's just because I don't want to... Just turning in this game is difficult because of the slow camera. So when you come out of the ship after it explodes, you're going to be beset upon by a couple of enemies right away. One of them is a slasher, and looks like we got a pair of slashers. So use your stasis. That's why I went back to get that stasis and just chop off the limbs. This game is really fantastic. stellar is the proper word for this game. So we're going to stomp on these guys. I try to stomp on the limb area, and they really fixed the stomp in the second game. And I didn't mean to imply anything negative about the second game. Another little bit of trivia that I like is that each of the chapters, the first letter of each chapter, when you put it together, it spells out Nicole is dead, or excuse me, Nicole is alive. So a little bit of trivia there. Slashers running at me. Kind of one of the annoying things about the gun is not really anything that has to do with its performance, but it always starts out in a vertical position, and it would be really nice if it. I always like to when I wield it, I like to have it horizontal, but it always switches back to the vertical, which is annoying.
This changes everything.
Just let me think.
So Kendra is being governed by fear once again. Great characters in this game.
It's no good. There's an executive lockdown of all primary systems. Without the captain's
So
authorization, I can't.
we're gonna head back, and everything
access
is beautifully connected with the train. Every time you end a level and start another one,
Benjamin Mathias.
you'll either
Location?
end or begin on the train.
Lab status. Deceased.
What? How?
And I just think this game does a really good job with really innocuously putting the HUD on the character's back so that you know at a glance how much HP you have, how much stasis you have,
Send the tram back to your location.
and just the really quick manner in which you can press the Y button to access your inventory. And since this is somewhat of a non-linear game, I mean, it is very linear, but there's a lot of twistings and different paths you can go. It is really nice to have that right there, the waypoint finder. So when you come in here in the bathroom, all there is a large healing item. Very helpful for that. And it takes the same amount of inventory slots as does the small one. So it's not like you have to have extra room just because it's a large med kit. When I first played this game, I think it was in like 2012 or no, 2000, probably 2000. Let's see, it might have been like 2012, 2011. I know it came out in 10, right? So I'm going to quickly. I'm just going to buy the level 2 suit, and that's all. And I'm going to speed this up because it takes quite a long time. And then we'll switch into this suit, leave the store, go onto the train, and then we'll save our progress and get ushered into Chapter 2. I want to thank you all for joining me on this quest. Take care.